If you think that visiting Japan is all about bustling cities, sushi, and viewing the glorious Mount Fuji, you're not necessarily wrong, but there is so much more beyond that, and one example of that depth is an outdoor activity that's probably not on your radar, and that is golf. And wow, does Japan do it right. So a few months ago, I was sitting here in my office in Vancouver, Canada, planning a trip to the faraway nation of Japan. I wanted to include an activity in our itinerary that was out of the busy cities and that offered an authentic cultural experience. But what immediately became apparent is how little English is spoken outside of the larger cities like Tokyo and Kyoto. Like many, I've always seen the sport of golf as an international language, and I'd heard that Japanese people speak the language of golf in a very memorable way. So with this revelation, I booked a tee time, and the following video shares the beautiful scenery and unique aspects of golfing in Japan. So the course I will share today is called Mount Fuji Classic, and it is aptly named because it sits right beside the famous Mount Fuji. We played in July of 2025 in the unforgiving Japanese summer heat. The course was designed by the famous British architect Desmond Muirhead and opened in 1995. Why would we fly across the world to play a course that is not even Japanese designed? Good question, but I think this video will make a case for why this course is so special. Driving up to the clubhouse was quite a grand entrance compared to the courses I play back home in Vancouver. Mount Fuji Classic is about a 2.5-hour drive from Tokyo, and it sits within the Yamanashi prefecture. There are 5 famous lakes that surround the volcano of Mount Fuji, and there are also several golf courses in the area too. We stayed at a place right beside Lake Kawaguchi and drove our rental car about 30 minutes to the golf course. You can also take a train from Tokyo to the area, but you would need to catch a cab for the 20 to 30 minute end of the journey, as this course is not accessible by transit alone. The clubhouse clearly has a British Tudor architecture style. It is kind of a unique sight to see within the middle of Japan, and an interesting physical juxtaposition. Golf is a game that was brought to Japan, and so is the clubhouse designed for this course. But it is against the unmistakably Japanese backdrop that is Mount Fuji. And the golfing experience, as you will see, had some Japanese cultural touches that made it truly unique. The front desk at the course is kind of set up like a hotel lobby, and they give you a cool leather book that holds your scorecard and locker stall key. The number you are assigned acts as your payment account for the day, so everything you buy gets added to your tab via that number, and you just pay once at the end. Note the plaid carpet here, which continues the British theme. I did make sure to check that the locker room was empty before getting this shot. They give you access to a locker which allows you to change your clothes, shower, and there is a pair of slippers. I didn't use any of these amenities, but they were there. We were then given our rental clubs, but we did have to buy a driving range token separately. I was given a really nice set of tailor-made irons and a new tailor-made driver. The shafts were a bit long and they were steel. It was hugely beneficial to get a few swings on the range in, rather than using the front 9 to figure the clubs out. They only gave my wife 10 clubs, and they looked like clubs from the mid-2000s. I guess their ladies' rentals club selection is small, but it was unfortunately not even in the ballpark of quality that my clubs were. So another thing to note is that they do not provide golf balls, so we had to buy them at the shop. The prices were about $15 Canadian for a sleeve of basic Srixons, so it was highly inflated. I wish I had known in advance, as it would have saved some hassle to just bring the balls ourselves. I am not a particularly great golfer, and my wife is a true beginner, so I bought a lot more golf balls than we ended up needing. Other courses I rented from provided 6 golf balls included in your rental club cost, which is more than enough usually. They also said that we needed to buy tees, which is also often free at courses anyways, but they ended up giving us these nice branded tees for free, which saved us another $15.
Bomb. Great shot. That was perfect, Hannah.
The course is a par 72. I played the white tees, which was 6,300 yards. The ladies/front tees played at 5,550 yards, and it is a massive jump to the back tees, as they are 7,200 yards.
So Hannah's first drive ever on a golf course went literally right into the exact middle of the fairway. Never seen that before. First drive ever on any golf course ever. Do I use this or no? No.
The design of the course is directly inspired by the artwork from 36 Views of Mount Fuji by the famous Japanese artist Tatsushika Hokuzai. Some of the holes have bunkers cut out like waves and other artifacts. It is a bit more visible from an aerial view, but it is very cool to see the level of detail that went into the manicuring of the course's features. The most famous painting is the Great Wave of Kanagawa, which has Mount Fuji in the background. It is a cool comparison to this entire golf course, which has a view of the spectacular peak from every single hole. Another unique thing about golfing at this course and in Japan are the white stakes in the middle of the tee box. I had never seen these stakes before, so when I got to the first tee box, I actually thought that it was a stake indicating that the tee box was closed. Even sillier was that we drove the cart up to the next set of tee boxes to see if those were open, and when we got there, they were of course the front tees, and they also had the white stake in it too. As I will show later in the video, the carts do not reverse. They only go forward on the defined path, so we cannot turn the cart around. I ran back to the white tees and teed off. Of course, at this point, the group behind us was at the tee box now. Somehow I managed to hit a decent drive on the fairway, so it was nice to get the thumbs up from the Japanese couple golfing behind us, instead of topping one and looking even more out of place. Another thing about the stakes in the tee box is that they point right into the middle of the fairway. This was hugely helpful as it was my first time on the course, obviously, and I thought it was a nice change from what I often see back home, where the tee box markers are often face off center, so you might line up with the markers but be aiming away from the fairway.
Wow, get in. Oh, so I got a little birdie look here, pin high but just off on the fringe, and I got out of the bunker, see if she can get up and down for par.
One big red flag with golfing on this course is the red flags in the fairway. Just kidding, this is actually just another unique thing I had never seen before. In the middle of every fairway, at the 220-yard distance from the white tees, there was a small red flag in a cup. It acts as an aiming target, and it was actually quite useful. It was not the same as a 150-yard marker, as the distance is measured from the tee box, not the green. I was trying to find something online about a special tradition for getting a hole-in-one in the red flag, but I could not find anything. Let me know in the comments if you know anything about this. A very cool tradition that seems to be standard with golf in several Asian countries is the mandatory lunch stop. At the end of the 9th hole, the cart takes you back to the clubhouse and you're actually directed into the restaurant. We were instructed that we had 45 minutes to get back to the next tee box. We ordered food immediately from an iPad, of course, and then the food came in about 5 minutes. Overall, I really liked this setup of having a forced stop for lunch. It broke up the round, gave us time to chat with the couple behind us as best as we could, and it was a much nicer experience than rushing to get a hot dog in at the halfway house in an attempt to not slow down pace of play.
So I hit my second shot onto the green, but I'm on the right side, like right over there. I'll put an arrow in, and I'm pretty sure I have about a 60, maybe 70-yard putt. Okay, so I can hit a putt, but it's gonna be about 50 yards maybe uphill. But I do have a straight shot at it. I think it's gonna be a little bit left or right, but it's really impossible to say. Nice.
In the top 3 coolest things about teeing it up here were the golf carts. They have 2 rows of seats and can hold 4 bags, so the whole foursome could fit in one cart. Worried about trusting the driver? Not a concern, as the carts are self-driving. You can only stop or have it move forward on the designated path. You cannot steer or go in reverse. It made the experience really simple, and you just have to grab the club you want to use and then walk back to the cart. Naturally, we found ourselves sending the cart ahead or having it catch up to us, which is super easy to do with the little remote control they give you. It was kind of the perfect mix of walking and karting. This would make some of the issues back home with people flipping carts and drunk driving on the course a little bit less of a concern, but I have to say it is a really cool setup.
So these are chopsticks that decide who plays first. So instead of flipping a tee, somebody holds the chopsticks out, everybody grabs one, and then each one has a notch from 1 to 4. So obviously if you get the 1 notch, you go first.
A thing to note if you were to book golf here, and at most courses in Japan, is that there are foreigner fees applied. The green fees were about 30% more expensive for non-Japanese residents, and when you add in rentals, the whole round cost does add up quick. Again, we also had to pay for the driving range token and golf balls. I booked directly from the course's website and just ran everything through Google Translate. This was quite a bit of work, however, there are some English concierge companies that handle the bookings for you and just charge a fee. Also, you cannot do a full reservation as a single, so you are best to try to get a twosome at least. You can book as a single on standby, but that is risky if you were on a trip where you only have the specific day and time planned for golf. That is a big reason why my prior non-golfer wife joined me for the round. However, she ended up having a super positive experience, so it worked out well.
I had a really good second shot with the 9-iron, and I got a little 8-footer, 9-footer for birdie. So let's see what we can do. Cameras are watching.
So close, baby.
Good par.
Okay, good job. Bro. You're strong.
Another thing about the Mount Fuji area in general is that there's a lot less English being spoken than you will find in the cities. Basically, none of the signage on the course had any English translation, so Google Translate is your friend here. Overall, I highly recommend Mount Fuji Classic and just golfing in Japan in general. I would for sure do it again, and there's no shortage of courses available to try. Winnie and I thank you for watching. Again, I highly recommend golfing in Japan, so to be sure to share this video with your friends and even consider subscribing. Until next time, we're out.